The Lord be with you. This is a reading of the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus continued teaching his disciples in parables. He said, there was a man going on a journey, and he called in his servants, and he handed his funds over to them according to each one's abilities. To one he dispersed 5,000 silver pieces. To a second he dispersed 2,000 silver pieces. To a third he dispersed 1,000 silver pieces. And then he went on his journey. And immediately the one who had received 5,000 went to invest it. And he made another 5. In the same way, the one who received the 2,000 doubled his figure. The one who received 1,000 instead went off, dug a hole in the ground, buried his master's money. After a long absence, the master of those servants came home and settled accounts with them. And the one who had received 5,000 came forward, bringing an additional 5. My Lord, he said, you have let me have 5,000, and see, I have made 5,000 more. The master said, well done. You are industrious and reliable servant. Since you are dependable in a small matter, I will put you in charge of larger affairs. Come, share your master's joy. The man who had received 2,000 stepped forward. My Lord, he said, you entrusted me with 2,000. I have made 2,000 more. His master said, cleverly done. You too are an industrious and reliable servant. Since you are dependable in a small matter, I will put you in charge of larger affairs. Come, share your master's joy. Finally, the one who had received 1,000 stepped forward. My Lord, he said, I know you are a hard man. You reap where you do not sow. You gather where you do not scatter. So out of fear, I went off and I buried your 1,000 silver pieces in the ground. Here is your money back. The master exclaimed, you worthless, lazy lout. You know I reap what I do not sow, gather what I do not scatter. All the more reason to deposit my money with the bankers, so that on my return I could have had it back with interest. You there, take that 1,000 away from him, give it to the man with 10. Those who have will get more until they grow rich. Those who have not will lose what little they have. Now throw this worthless servant in the darkness outside where he can wail and grind his teeth. Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
We continue our walk through the 25th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. We started with the parable of the 10 bridesmaids. Today we have the parable of silver pieces, and next week we will have the parable of the separation of the sheep and the goats. All three of these parables could be named the parables of eternal consequences for temporal choices. I suppose they could be. And the choices that are sensible and those that are not. And then today the choices about investment portfolios, if you will. And all the parables are revelations about the nature of God, and they're also revelations about the nature of human beings. And so the revelations about the intersection and interaction between God and human beings. And Jesus portrays God as a master who entrusts his wealth with his servants. And just so you know, in the economy of Palestine 2,000 years ago, The usual daily wage was 2 copper coins. And the number of copper coins it took to make a silver piece, I think, was somewhere in the neighborhood between 30 and 50. I could be a little low on that. I don't think I'm high. So when that being said, if you're thinking about having 1,000 silver pieces all at once, not over the course of your lifetime, but literally dropped in your lap by your master, most of the hearers of this parable would have said, raise their hand and say, show me the master and I'll be right there. You give me that 1,000 silver pieces and, I'll hit the road with my investments and I'll make you at least another 1,000. Just give me enough time. Make the absence long and you'll have it. So just so you know that whether you had 5 or 2 or 1, doing something worthwhile and multiplying the silver pieces was totally doable. So that's Jesus is telling a story about, okay, this is doable. And but there was a difference in ability between the servants in the eyes of the master. So he literally portioned it out. This one is able to handle this, and this one's able to handle that, and this one's able to handle that. And so in the mind of the master. And with the first 2, the abilities, he proved spot on, with his judgment. The man with 5 made another 5. The man with 2 made another 2. And he called them when he discovered that, and it didn't seem to be too surprised about it, is that they were industrious and reliable. Okay? So there must be something about discipleship, because all parables are about discipleship. There must be something about discipleship that requires industry and reliability. Amen? Okay? In our behaviors from day to day, over the course of time or over a course of lifetime, that if you are industrious and you are reliable, then you will succeed. And I, for one, and I'm sure most, if not all of you, could say the same, that was drilled into you by your parents from the time you were about that big. Amen? Hey, can I have a witness? We were groomed and trained and reinforced industry and reliability. That's how you were. That's the kind of person you need to be. That's the kind of husband or wife you need to be, mom or dad you need to be, and that will give you success in your life and in your vocation and in your profession. So what about the guy who buried the money? I had a different thought on that this year, or this time that I preaching about it. Just the behavior. The behavior of taking 1,000 silver pieces, which was an awful lot of money at that time, and burying it in the ground for a long time. The absence was long. And when the master came back, digging it up and just handing it back. Okay? That behavior indicates to me that that particular servant is the one who really did not want to be a servant in the first place. It's basically somehow he knew that the master was a hard man, and he knew that hardness had to deal with accountability. But instead of, at first, when the master was handing out the funds, instead of saying, don't give me any, I'm not industrious or reliable or whatever, or I'm too afraid, or I don't want to take the risk. Instead of doing that, he took the money but did not own any responsibility of what to do with that.